شي باين في المحنة الله بيشهد مين احنا رجالة ضمن طرطش لك بنضرب حرب الليلة ما بنغلب بدك جبال وعادي من هدلك مرحب فيك في ولاد القدس مندبر حالنا نحل اللغز رنيت على نفحة وكل بخش وكشوفنا وياما وكله بصف ولا مرة نخاف ولا مرة ونص بدك.
We were sick and tired of begging the powers that be to stop killing our brothers and sisters in Palestine. I had done the boycott campaigns, I had lobbied politicians, I had organized protests and marches, but nothing was working.
I've got you.
Rather than asking any politician to shut weapons factories down, we could go and shut them down ourselves. By putting our bodies on the line and our liberty on the line, occupying these factories, smashing them up and shutting them down, we could take the power back into our own hands.
We know we had the power. Small groups of people with conscience, morality, and a few tools are all that's needed to actually change the world.
Our world of drones is rising fast, from delivery to emergency response, law enforcement.
Elbit Systems technologies are operational in dozens of countries with power and precision.
Never in my wildest imagination have I ever even thought that I would be in such a situation where my daughter is in prison. She has been arrested for an alleged action against Elbit, the Filton site, and causing allegedly damage to weapons worth around £1 million.
To take action against something unjust going on in my city. I take pride in that.
Me can't believe I saw them cheat people. Them they have to protect and them a beat people. I'm innocent, no system for the street people. Can't believe them a delete people. The system needs to change right now. Too much with a good on me that grave right now. We know see the nigga it's a case right now. After get the people I know stay right now. The system needs to change right now. Too much with a good on me that grave right now. You know see the nigga it's a case right now.
Direct action is a form of protest where you go straight to the people that are causing the problem and you solve it yourself.
What direct action does is it confronts power in a tangible way, and it forces power to confront itself.
Direct action is literally refusing to move. Direct action is not the national parades where police come and they say, can you move along now, please? It's 4 p.m. We will decide on how we are opposing you and how we will disrupt until you listen to us.
In terms of Palestine Action, that means we've given up on asking people to stop arming Israel, and we're going about dismantling the arms industry ourselves.
It is a factory of revolutionaries. You've never had anything of the nature of Palestine Action on the Palestinian cause in this country work in a sustainable way for this period of time and achieve the successes that have been achieved.
The effectiveness of the actions that they've taken has had a huge impact. Factories being closed down, contracts being lost. It's in the interest of the public, actually, for people to know what is happening within their cities and towns and to be able to have a say in that. And for a long time we didn't. But thanks to Palestine Action, now we know and we can act.
I became aware of Palestine Action through the kinds of actions that they were engaged in to disrupt the weapons manufacture and dissemination of weapons over the course of the last 3 to 4 years.
And I mean, immediately clear that they were doing some of the most important protest work, not only in Britain, but I mean the world.
Those people are sacrificing something for a cause far, far bigger than them and all of us. And they are giving of themselves, of their future, of their time, of their mental, of their physical health, in order to articulate a form of love for some of the most oppressed people in the world. These are the best of humanity.
When they ask me why I did it, I tell them about the children, how their childhood is stolen from them, how their skeletons are left charred and smoking, how easily their bodies are crushed by falling buildings, how their skin melts as their flaming tents collapse around them. I tell them of the boy found carrying his brother's body inside his bloody backpack. I tell them of the girl whose hanging corpse ended at the knees. I tell them of the father holding up his headless toddler. I tell them of the mother who received the approximate weight of her family in body parts to bury. They had all been shattered beyond recognition. Then I tell them about the history. I talk about how it was us that started it, with our Balfour Declaration. So I say, I cannot stand for this. It can go on no longer. So I took action against Elbit, their weapons supplier. But I never forget to say that it was love, not hate, that called me.
You know, the images coming out of Gaza on our phone screens every single day, showing the slaughter of children, especially of children, was very hard for all of us to take. And the same for Fatma Zainab. She did not want to be complicit in genocide. And all these images, these stories that were reaching us made her feel really helpless and really distressed and depressed. That, why are we not doing anything, as individuals, as communities? Why are we sitting there with our hands tied?
We carry an immense amount of grief on a daily basis, and that grief gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And every time we see a video where we're witnessing the dismantling or the disruption of those arms factories that are directly contributing to the mass murder of Palestinian people, it's a reminder that there are individuals amongst us that are brave, that are bold, and that are willing to change with their hand and seek justice.
صباح الخير يا ولاد عمومنا فضلوا شرفونا شو بتحب مضيفكم دم عربي ولا الدموع من عيوننا بعتقد هيك تأملوا نستقبل من هيك تعقدوا لما تدركموا على غلطة من هيك لبسنا الكوفي البيضة والسودا صاروا كلاب الزمان يلبسوها كموضة
There are various arms factories across the UK which are given arms export licenses to export weaponry, components and so on, which can be used by the Israeli military to commit war crimes and crimes against humanity.
The UK has supplied Israel with material support in order to facilitate its violation of international law. It is very easily arguable that the UK is a complicit actor in the ongoing genocide in Gaza.
Our first action, we went to the London headquarters of Elbit Systems, grabbed whatever spray paint and tools and homemade stencils we could get, and went inside and spray painted the inside of the office.
We could have waited around for a year and planned everything perfectly, but that's not going to be successful. That's not going to start a movement. We, as the founders and our friends as we started off, needed to go out there and show people that we could do this.
I received contact from Huda in which she said we carried out an action at Elbit Systems offices in London. Is it cool if we use your song on the video for it?
This is for Palestine, Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza. This is for the child that is searching for an answer. Wish I could take your tears and replace them with laughter. Long live Palestine, long live Gaza.
It'd be very easy for them to look at that video and say, well, this doesn't look that organized. But actually, it's there you see essentially the first shot fired of Palestine Action. But they had no way of knowing, when they look at that video, what would follow it.
In 2020, Palestinians were still facing constant home demolitions in the West Bank. Palestinians in Gaza had been living under a brutal siege by land, air and sea for over a decade. And when Palestinians in Gaza marched to the fence which had entrapped them under this brutal siege for over a decade to demand their right to freedom, their right to return to their homes, a right stipulated under international law, they were met and shot and killed by Israeli snipers.
We had extreme violations, some of which can be considered and classified as war crimes in terms of direct targeting of the civilians who were partaking in these demonstrations.
Israel responded by sniping thousands of them. There were thousands of amputees off the back of it and hundreds of people killed. And those sniper rifles, some of them were sold to the Israelis by the British.
So we decided to occupy the weapons factory in Staffordshire. We grabbed whatever tools we could. We got some ladders. We didn't have much money, so we just brought whatever we could from home. We used shopping bags to carry the stuff onto the roof, and we were there for 3 days. And we weren't sure if they would hold us in prison on remand afterwards, that in that moment, we had the power. We could shut down this factory, and that is the best place I have ever been, is on top of an Israeli weapons factory, shutting it down with a hammer in my hands.
Some of the best known forms of direct action can be thought about in relation to resistance to apartheid and forms of segregation. So direct action was used in the US civil rights movements. They disrupted and broke segregation laws on public transport networks, for instance, or on food counters. We can think about examples such as resistance to chattel slavery in the Americas, in which they rose up, burnt down the property of the peoples who were enslaving them. All of these forms of resistance were wholly illegal.
You also have the suffragettes movement, which went as far as trying to push Winston Churchill under a train and throwing bricks at 10 Downing Street. So there's all manner of ways in which direct action has achieved some of the things that we actually take for granted and view as positive aspects of our society. Those were won through direct action. They were fought for from below, not bestowed from above.
We're here at UAV Engines in Shenstone. I'm locking on. I'm in a van. We've got a couple of guys with brick breakers.
This is Elbit's drone engine factory in Shenstone. So that's why we are here, ordinary people, closing this factory down.
That sound you hear is the sound of ordinary people taking direct action. Let's see how our fortification works against police tools.
We've got to take this factory down, brick by brick, wall by wall.
The primary purpose is shutting Elbit down and causing economic damage. But if we don't publicise what's happening there, if we don't show people not only how it's operating, what's happening within it, the companies that are complicit with this and are supplying them, but also showing people the bravery that activists are taking who are going in and smashing up the inside of a factory. But when you see someone take that courage and take that step into action, it means that you have that conversation with yourself. Could I take that action too?
If not me, who? And if not now, when?
I can act to stop these weapons being manufactured. It's within my power, and I will do that. What brought me here today is a kind of realisation that direct action is probably one of the best ways to get your voice heard.
We are here to shut Elbit down.
Protest has limited effect in this country. And, you know, we saw it with Grenfell, we've seen it with Palestine, we saw it with the Iraq War.
What we're seeing now is that these demonstrations become are institutionalized in a way that isolates them from the rest of the community. So you can protest all you want, but the policy change will remain very minimal.
And you see actually futility of some of the methods that have been used for decades in this country.
People were literally going out every day and there was no impact. Like, it wasn't that the Israeli government were going to look at that and do anything. And the only thing that I saw that I felt was actually going to have any impact was to stop the weapons that we're producing in this country.
And so that leads you to the point where you see direct action as actually the only thing that has delivered results in a tangible way and in a dramatic way in this country, inspired by the Raytheon 9. So Raytheon it's between Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, the largest arms company in the world.
At the Raytheon building, there's a number of persons inside have taken over the building and are throwing items, computer disks, paper, etc. onto the roadway.
These were people who, during the Israeli war on Lebanon, realized they had a Raytheon factory in Derry, and they got into the factory, shut it down. were then arrested and used the court case as an opportunity to turn the tables on the company. So they entered the court, the accused, and they left as the accusers, and they were able to not only be acquitted, but also Raytheon was forced to leave Derry.
By seeking to turn the table and take these corporations to court through direct action, these actionists sought to engage the legal system in a rather creative way. Furthermore, this way of thinking is a way that appeals to the law and the court of public opinion.
Palestine is certainly being used as a testing ground for the arms industry. And I mean, this is not just kind of a claim by activists or Palestinians or lawyers. This is something that is openly admitted by the Israeli arms industry, and they're selling these instruments of war as battle tested against the Palestinians.
If you go to the DSEI Arms Fair, which happens every 2 years in Exeter, London, you will find Israeli corporations using demo videos on how these weapons were used and conducted in Palestine.
Israel has a constant guinea pig, which is the Palestinians. Guinea pigs for how we can control them, guinea pigs for how we can watch them, guinea pigs for how we can study them, guinea pigs for how we can kill them.
The UK and the Israeli military-industrial complexes are actually quite integrated. Now, an important aspect of this was the Watchkeeper drone.
Since becoming operational in the IDF in the mid-1990s, Hermes Family Systems logged more than 400,000 operational flight hours in more than 40,000 successful combat missions for various forces around the globe, making them the most versatile and reliable tactical unmanned aircraft platform in the world.
Elbit Systems is a military technology company that is officially incorporated in Israel, but as a multinational corporation, it has different subsidiaries all across the world. It produces weapons primarily for the Israeli state. However, it also exports its weaponry to state actors all around the world.
It produces many of the missiles, drones, armory, that's been used to pummel Gaza. Now, it's also deeply integrated with the Israeli state. Israeli officials are frequently at Elbit events.
I'm here in Bristol for the opening of the new Elbit factory, and I'm very, very proud of the Israeli technology. Elbit is a defense technology company, Israeli, that based here in the UK, has factories in Kent and in Bristol.
I have just finished a visit to the Elbit factory, the place where a significant portion of the ammunition and equipment for the ground forces is produced. I am very impressed by the dedication of the employees, the management, and the quality of production with regard to the staff or the missiles. But most importantly, what matters here is that this is a blue and white production.
We quickly identified Elbit Systems, Israel's biggest weapons firm, as our main target.
Elbit Systems are the very manifestation of the Israeli military regime here in Britain.
We knew they were operating in towns and cities across Britain. We also understood the impact it would make if Israel's biggest weapons manufacturer was forced out of a country, one of their strongest allies, and not because the government said so, but because of the people.
We knew that Elbit Systems, under the subsidiary UAV Tactical Systems, were operating an arms company and a manufacturing hub where they were assembling drones to be shipped off to Israel from there. And the idea there is that if you're on the roof of a factory, like the British health and safety rules means that no one can actually be underneath you until they take you off. So just being there shut down the factory. And the idea was to occupy it for as long as we could and just keep that factory shut down.
Yeah, so this is middle of the 6th day on top of Elbit's factory in Leicester. Police have been denying us water for a couple of days now. Yeah. We've now resorted to, every time it rains, scraping water off the tent. This morning, I'll just show you over here, made a hole in the roof, and we can see down into the main workshop where they assemble killer drones. Just around the corner there, that's the end of the drone. You see on the right there. So we reckon this is where they assemble the drones ready for shipping towards Israel to be tested on Palestinians.
It was kind of that moment of like, we are so definitely in the right place, doing the right thing. And yeah, and that was the same day that evening the police came to take us down, and like it was with that happening in the morning, the police coming taking us down, that we kind of picked up the sledgehammer and hammers and were just like, we need to this place needs to be shut down for as long as possible, and we just did as much like as we could to the top of it. I remember this guy Graham from the police shouting, "Don't do that, that's not going to help your cause," which has been, I think, successfully proved wrong.
When it comes to any direct action that occurs, it is really important for local community members to get involved. People came out in droves. You know, we had convoys coming from across Leicester. We had people coming outside the factory. People were staying over at night because we could tell that, like, the activists on the roof, they were struggling.
And then we glued ourselves to the roof just to stay out for a bit longer.
You understand? You're under arrest for criminal damage and
Once we were arrested and put into the police vans, something that they hadn't really banked for was the Leicester community and quite how spectacular they are.
The police were trying to get down the activists from off the roof. And in that time, you know, the Leicester community had mobilised a lot of people. There were call-outs. They were standing in front of the police with riot shields. Police had come with their vans.
While they were busy trying to unglue us and have people on the roof, I remember their conversations in my ear, and there was this guy saying, just on the radio, "I'm a bit concerned. There seem to be people putting barriers up against the entrance to the factory." By the time they'd got us in the vans later that night, the whole entrance had been barricaded. A total people-powered blockade of the factory. Every single one of these actions has often a small number of people dressed up in red boiler suits, maybe doing some damage or doing the action, and a huge number of people supporting that to happen and supporting it for years afterwards.
When it came to 2023, when there was a siege held by Palestine Action outside their Leicester Elbit factory, our community were like, okay, these people have been manhandled by the police, all their tents are being confiscated, but they want to continue the siege. So Leicester people came and gave blankets and food supplies and everything for the activists to be able to continue in what they firmly believe that they should be there, you know?
Local people in these areas do not want an Israeli weapons factory operating on their doorstep. And they can also be a key driving force in forcing the company out of their city.
Those community members took direct action themselves. When people were on the roof and being refused things from the police, they threw things up. When police tried to remove activists, they blocked the road. And then crucially, they carry on and they come out after every action.
They resonate more with the ones on the roof shutting down the factories than the companies who are making the weapons to massacre their brothers and sisters in Palestine. Leicester is the most diverse city in the country, and we saw them come out on force. And ever since then, ever since that action, when they went on the roof in May 2021, the locals go out, they maintain the disruption, they maintain the protests outside that factory.
So the British government cancelled the Watchkeeper drone contract, which was worth £2 billion.
Which I can only think to mean the consistent and targeted action from Actions of Palestine Action, including this one, and like many, many more, that mean the manufacture of these drones keeps being delayed.
The reason for the factory in Leicester existing is the Watchkeeper drone contract. So you do have to wonder how long is left for the Leicester UAV factory now that they have lost this Watchkeeper drone project.
It kind of launched Palestine Action into a more mainstream attention for the first time. I looked at the reports back and I was like, oh, this one was different from the last ones.
Protesters have staged a demonstration on the roof of a Leicester building which is involved in making combat drones. The group, called Palestine Action, claims that units built at the Israeli-owned Elbit factory at Meridian Park have been used in the ongoing conflict in Gaza.
There's been different ways things have developed, expanding not just from targeting factories. There's been a massive scope of targets.
Elbit Systems could not operate in isolation. They rely on a network of companies, investors, recruiters, suppliers, landlords, and therefore Palestine Action expanded the campaign to also target those who enable Elbit Systems. Actionists understood that if we could cost them more than they gain by working with Elbit, they would make the financially smart decision to just cut ties with Elbit.
And really what the activity of Palestine Action is about is increasing the cost of that relationship with Elbit. You know, as is said, if you work with Elbit Systems, then expect us.
We wanted to make Elbit famous for all of the evil and inhumane acts they were committing on a daily basis. We wanted communities to know their name, know who their neighbours were, and to drive this company out of their towns and cities. Every time we do an action, we use the name of Elbit. We call for them to drop Elbit or shut Elbit down, to know exactly why we are there, what our mission is, and what it takes to stop Palestine Action from showing up on your doorstep. Do not work with Elbit Systems.
So in the case of Barclays, it had a well-documented role in investing in Elbit Systems. Palestine Action targeted tens of Barclays locations across the country in one day. And you have several months later, Barclays divesting.
When you take action, there must be an internal coherence to your action. Like stealing a statue of the State of Israel's first Prime Minister, or damaging a picture, a cultural artifact of the British colonisation of Palestine.
Shortly after we started, we saw an escalation in police tactics against us. It was to stop us from speaking out. It was to stop us from acting. It was to stop Palestine Action from growing.
The way that the Palestinian cause was policed, the way that direct action for Palestine was policed, was at a wholly different level. To be thrown to the floor by police, violently arrested, showed to me exactly what the state thought about Palestine.
I think that was one of the main things that led me to take action. A woman called Mariam Afifi. I watched her being put in handcuffs and she was smiling at the camera, and that was inspiring for me. I think that was one of the big reasons why I felt like taking action in Birmingham. So we hit a factory in Birmingham. The company was Arconic, and they're an aluminium rolling mill. They're controversial for more than one thing. They make parts for the F-35 fighter jet. But then there's also Grenfell Tower.
On the 14th of June 2017, a fire spread across the building, and because of the Arconic cladding, it moved up, down and around the building and killed 72 people.
Whilst the action's happening, it's fundamental to remember who you're doing it for and who you stand by whilst doing it. I was remembering, stories of people from every floor in the Grenfell Tower. We got started straight away, so we were trying to cause as much damage to the building as possible. And then I think it must have been later in the afternoon, there was masses in the community that came down.
We're all sitting, blocking the road.
And there was a little roundabout just up the road. Police had cordoned the road off, so people couldn't get on the actual road we were on. But that didn't stop neighbors coming out, cheering. We were up there for, I think it must have been 30 hours thereabouts. I remember being extremely calm. I didn't really feel a sense of fear. When you're coming down, you're still in that you still feel this sense of euphoria, shit, we did something. We actually did something.
As someone that lived for many years next to the tower, that was there on the night, that lost a friend in the fire, that tried in the aftermath to be effective in some way, I think the decision to hit Arconic's factory was absolutely a beautiful sight, for sure.
We've not seen any form of justice against those who are responsible for murdering 72 people. I myself was a witness to the fire and know a lot of people that are impacted by this fire, a lot of friends that lost their homes and lost their family members. For us, it felt like radical justice.
We wanted to show solidarity through actions, not just another statement, but by targeting the company which was both responsible for the murder of people in Grenfell and in Palestine. The same company which disregarded human lives in Britain are the same ones who supplied the materials for Israel's F-35 fighter jets used to massacre people in Palestine, in Lebanon, and across the Middle East.
يا الله بسم الله ونعم الوكيل
So the arms trade connects Britain to the ongoing genocide in multiple ways. First of all, Britain is a part of the F-35 program, which is the NATO program, supplying warplanes to Israel.
Now, over 15% of every single F-30 fighter jet is produced in Britain with components made by UK-based arms factories.
UK is in violation of a number of its international obligations when it's exporting weapons to Israel, including the duty to prevent genocide, the duty to cooperate towards ending the Israeli occupation of Palestine, the duty to protect the Palestinian people.
So the directors of arms factories across Britain that have been targeted by Palestine Action have often tried to distance themselves from kind of responsibility for where those arms are ending up. Now, what we managed to find at Declassified, based on hundreds, if not thousands, of cargo documents that we obtained, is that there are various factories across the UK, many of which are either Elbit or subsidiaries of Elbit, that they have been exporting to Israel amid the Gaza genocide. So what we've managed to do basically is to prove in real time which arms factories in the UK have been exporting to Israel, despite repeated denials on the part of the directors of the arms factories.
Is that on? So this, we understand this to be the roof that gives us access to the clean room, where they make parts for the F-35 clean, F-35 fighter jets. So we believe that if we can contaminate this room, that we can put this factory out of action for up to 12 months. It's fine. Whoa! Jesus. Oh my word. There we go. Is it too much?
As we saw the genocidal campaign escalate, so our actions needed to match that in terms of severity. People started to break inside factories regularly.
Oh, fuck you, Teledyne. Alarms!
More people were coming forward and saying, I'm going to do it. And they were literally getting inside these factories and causing millions of pounds worth of damage.
Clean room 2! Someone boost me up. Security, security! Stay together, stay together, stay together. Right, get.
Whenever actionists would do these actions, they were able to gather more intelligence on the supply chain. The papers that they had inside gave us more and more information to be able to better target and focus the next actions against Israel's military supply chain. We know that every time they have a security breach, they have to report it to the Ministry of Defense. That these are highly classified documents which actionists can just break inside these weapons factories, find and expose to the world.
Yeah.
1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
Oh.
You good?
Can you give me a hand?
Come on.
Let's go. Thank you. Free Palestine. Let's see what we have. Someone finally got the alarm off. Police are here. Have you glued the doors? This is what happens when you work with Elbit. Stick together, guys. Stick together. Guys, we stick together. They're here. Oh look, police are here. You good?
I'm struggling. Glue.
Just go.
Yeah. Do it. Beautiful flower. We don't have to leave until they make us leave. Exactly. Yeah? Gives us time to fuck about. In which case, check there's no other entrances.
He's full, yeah? Okay, we're gonna just check.
Nice, okay. Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Let's go through drives, let's smash up drives.
You guys smash up drives. I'm gonna bandage my hands. Wow, it's beautiful out there. You should have a look.
It's actually a really nice morning.
It's beautiful sunrise.
Yeah, we're just prying it open.
Leonardo!
Yes! Amazing. Let's see. Leonardo.
Oh, these
These are interesting.
Let's just smash all of
These are
it.
very interesting. Someone give me a hammer. Give it to you. Fab. Go. Bang.
This
Criminal damage to prevent a war crime is not a crime. When you put that before most juries in this country, they will see that for what it is. That these are people doing what they can within their means to try and prevent the greater harm.
We were were allowed by a judge to talk about Palestine and to talk about and to put in front of the jury how drones are used to share export licenses from UAV tactical systems to Israel. And it means that you get a fair trial. When juries get to hear the whole truth like that, they, generally speaking, find people in Palestine Action not guilty.
Shortly after the genocide escalated in Gaza, we saw the increase in state pressure against Palestine Action. Actionists were being raided every week, as different homes were being searched across the country by the police. We knew at the start of Palestine Action, the state would do everything possible to try and stop us before we drove Israel's weapons trade out of Britain. And we weren't going to let them win.
Through freedom of information requests, we've been able to establish as fact that there has been constant coordination and meeting over the years between Israel, Elbit Systems, the British government. You then have the case of 2022, Priti Patel, at that time, as Home Secretary, meeting with the director of Elbit, Martin Fawcett, and talking about Palestine Action. In that meeting, Priti Patel told him, we cannot directly intervene in the judicial process, but we have been in contact with the police about this. Within a month of that meeting was the first conviction of a Palestine Action activist. The next meeting that took place between a British government minister and Elbit Systems also included somebody representing the Crown Prosecution Service. Now, this is very likely to be a violation of 2.1 of the Crown Prosecution's Code of Conduct, which says that they must behave in an independent and impartial way without political pressure.
The fact that arms companies can and are able to go to the government and to lobby them directly to say impose harsher sentences on activists is in itself very telling of where we are.
Elbit Systems presents Lanius Search and Attack in One. New, innovative, autonomous, lethal solution based on racing drones. The Lanius conducts GPS navigation, flight, scanning, mapping enemy detection, and lethality in a complex urban environment. Lanius is equipped with AI technologies that allows navigation to building, scanning the building to identify openings, scanning and mapping, object avoidance, enemy detection and classification. Lanius, search and attack in one.
Living in Gaza means you are forced to hear this sound every day, almost every hour, day and night.
عندما بدك تحس حالك بدك تنام بتحسها فوق راسك زن 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 زن.
I could tell you for sure that I haven't talked to anyone in Gaza or heard any recording in Gaza in the past year where I didn't consistently hear the voice of a drone at whatsoever at any moment.
The IDF has been systematically using drones in its campaign in Gaza over the past 16 months. These drones have been used to bomb civilians.
Israel and Israeli corporations are now marketing that as very effective ways of killing.
They're emitting sounds such as women or babies crying in a kind of perverse attempt to lure Palestinians out of their homes to tend to the person who's crying and then using them to bomb them afterwards.
So first of all, we've had testimonies from doctors who were in the grounds who described direct bullets coming to children through these quadcopters. We've also heard accounts of pregnant women who were targeted by quadcopters, and also targeting of journalists.
So Israel is kind of at the cutting edge as well of drone technology, by way of its experience of testing these different forms of drones on a captive population in Palestine.
What I think I found particularly disturbing was that a bomb would drop maybe on a crowded, tented area, and then the drones would come down and...
Please take your time. We're incredibly grateful that you're making the time to be here.
So the drones would come down and pick off civilians, children, and we had description after description. This is not, an occasional thing. This was day after day after day, operating on children who would say, I was lying on the ground after a bomb had dropped, and this quadcopter came down and hovered over me and shot me.
The Filton 18 undertook an unprecedented operation. They are alleged to have caused over £1 million worth of damage to that facility.
I think it's important for us to understand that when we're told Filton is a research centre, it's absolutely not that. It hosts killing machines. This is machinery that is created on UK soil with UK state complicity and investment that is targeting and killing innocent children and civilians en masse on a daily basis.
Fatima Zainab was arrested on the 6th of August. That's one day after she turned 20. Fatima Zainab has always been an advocate for social justice. I would say that's one of her most defining character. And when the genocide started in October 2023, it had a massive impact on her. We'd be going on every single march as a family, all the national marches, the emergency protests and rallies. We would be in all of them. And I think there came a point where Fatima Zainab was getting really distressed and very helpless that, we're marching week in, week out. the government's not listening, our voices are being unheard. And I feel this is the point where she felt that she needed to take action herself, do something more than just marching week in, week out.
And it's an incredibly difficult time because we're not only having to deal with the grief of witnessing a real-time genocide take place every single day, but on top of that, we're having to deal with the absence of our loved ones because they have tried to do something to stop that.
We're all proud of her, you know, we're all proud of being where she is for why she is in prison, you know, and even, you know, when I visit her, I tell her you need to hold your head up high because you know, you're not going to allow anyone to criminalize you because you haven't done anything that you need to be ashamed of.
Now, the police response to this action has been quite extraordinary. They've used counter-terror legislation to detain and remand many of those activists in prison, to the extent that they were moved from one site to another site without anybody who knows them being made aware that they had been moved. They were effectively rendered incommunicado from the rest of the world.
You have seen people detained on remand for a long time, but initially under counter-terrorism legislation, which meant there were numerous ways in which they could have more harsh treatment justified, supposedly in a cell all day with the lights on, all night with the lights on, regular disruption.
And with Fatima Zainab, I couldn't see her until 3 weeks into her arrest. The government has abused the use of counter-terror powers to arrest the Filton group, to interrogate them day and night, and then because of the terror connection that they're now labeled with, the consequences in prison on remand have been horrific for all of them.
It is safe to say that the worst legal framework to use in such a case is the terrorism framework. The terrorism discourse has been heavily critiqued by justice theorists, by human rights lawyers, by being a way to evade the rule of law and creating an otherwise called exceptionalist space outside of the law into whatever annoys the government.
The state realised that imprisoning people had failed to stop the movement. They realised that raiding people's homes had failed to stop the movement. This was the first time we had seen the state try and say that these actions could amount to terrorism. And despite being arrested under the Terrorism Act, none of them were charged with terrorism offences, but the counter-terrorism police continue to lead on this investigation.
But what's been happening recently is that most judges are now declining defences. They say to you as a defendant that you're not allowed to have any defence in law for the action you took. You're not allowed to argue on these points, and in some cases, you're not allowed to mention the word Palestine.
As a judge, you are not meant to be looking at a specific case without understanding the context as well as the positionality of the person that is being prosecuted here.
Since that time now, activists and people not being able to advocate for themselves, not being able to talk about their moral stance and why attacking a building material is less damaging than massacring villages and communities.
And that means that people stand up in court and have to say, I did this damage to this factory. I can't tell you what it does. I can't tell you about the people it's been killing. I can't tell you about the international law they've been breaking. I can't tell you all of these things, but I did some damage, and you've got to find me guilty or not guilty. You're going to be found guilty.
The terror connection aggravates their sentence. It makes it longer. So if they're convicted of their charges, which is criminal damage, violent disorder, and aggravated burglary, which is bad enough as it is, if they're convicted of that, and then to lay the terror connection on top, gosh, that's something I don't even want to think about.
Forms of direct action that have been used with varying effectiveness over the past 40, 50, maybe even 60 years are now being encroached upon by a government which I think is fearful that they see these forms of direct action escalating, they see the effectiveness of these forms of direct action escalating, and they are quite adamant on the necessity that it needs to be nipped in the bud before the climate movements, before the international solidarity movements, before the movements in resistance to policing and forms of trade union action coalesce and become strengthened in their movements.
It's a terrifying feeling to know, to have experienced the abuse of police power, to have experienced the abuse of the government's power. And I think this is something that we should all be concerned about, because today it's us, today it's Fatima Zainab that has been arrested under counter-terror powers, but tomorrow it could be anyone.
Yes, we see that the state repression is getting harder, it's getting tougher, but the way we see it is that's a sign that governments that are in support of racism and apartheid are becoming weaker. And because they're becoming weaker, they are intensifying their targeting of all of those individuals that challenge and oppose it.
The police have sought to escalate the repression and use counter-terrorism legislation to try and suppress Palestine Action. But what we've seen is that people wanting to join and get involved has risen as the repression has risen.
They're calling me a terrorist, like they don't know who the terror is. When they put it on me, I tell them this: I'm all about peace and love. They're calling me a terrorist, like they don't know who the terror is. Insulting my intelligence. Oh, how these people judge. When they put it on me, I tell them this: I'm all about peace and love. They're calling me a terrorist, like they don't know who the terror is. Insulting my intelligence. Oh, how these people.
Palestine Action has set the world alight. There's never been the spread of an organization in the way that it is spread, even in the United States. Palestine Action US succeeded in Boston, Massachusetts, shutting down an Elbit Systems site permanently. From Italy to Germany, across the world, there are now branches of Palestine Action with the same school of thought, which is you focus on an attritional war against weak points in the structure of what Israel does. And the weakest point is the arms trade. This is an unprecedented bulldozer of a campaign which has launched directly into the heart of Elbit Systems operations in this country, and it's something that, frankly, the rest of the world should learn from.
Palestine Action permanently shut down Elbit's weapons factory in Oldham, the north of England. We permanently shut down their weapons factory in Tamworth in Staffordshire. We forced Elbit to abandon their London office. We forced them to lose their office in Boston in the US. Several companies have been forced to cut ties with Elbit Systems, including the property manager Fisher German, asset manager JLL, international lobby firm ABCO, the landlord London Metric, investors Barclays Bank, machinery suppliers Hydrofeed, international commercial law firm MLL Legal, their recruiters IO Associates, their website designers Naked Creativity, and Somerset Council. They've also been forced to lose contracts worth billions of pounds, including the Watchkeeper drone project, which was led by their Leicester factory. We've seen in repeated documents Elbit complaining to UK ministers about the disruption we are causing and their failure to be able to recruit people in England as a result of our actions. And Palestine Action won't stop until every single one of Elbit's factories are forced out of the country.
You are talking about over 500 operations across these years. That is a Herculean achievement. Those in the established status quo political class and political organisations don't know what's hit them.
This strategy of focusing on Elbit is working. It's because we're staying focused on one target and what props it up and hitting it time and time again, and it will only work if we keep going.
And to see that recognition, you know, through murals and painting in Gaza, in Palestine, and it kind of reinforces the idea that, you know, it's a collective struggle.
From the Palestinian community's perspective, the acts of Palestine Action have resonated as the ultimate acts of solidarity, situating Palestine Action in the belly of the beast, also it being led by people who are from the British working class, and with the clear message being equality and justice for all, resonated in a time where the feeling is that we've been left out by the world, in a time of ultimate helplessness.
It can feel like we're in a position of despair, despondence, loss. But I feel continually heartened that resistance and solidarity of Palestine has also escalated at a phenomenal level.
You might take my life, but you can't take my soul. You can't take my soul. You might take my freedom, but you can't take my soul. No, you can't take my soul. You might take my life, but you can't take my soul. You can't take my soul. You might take my freedom, but you can't take my soul. No, you can't take my soul. Yeah.
Palestine has always been an anchor when it comes to social justice, political justice. But what we're seeing now is a movement that is not just in one space, it's in every space. It's institutional, it's systemic, it's international, and I think there's nothing more powerful than that at the moment, and there is no going back, there's only moving forward.
Image out of my heart when we've seen the bodies found in a mountain of parts. Netanyahu told you just another child of the dark. Clear it's gonna take much more than thousands to march, more than a speech, more than a poem, more than a track of music. Gonna take more than a sit down with Bassem Youssef. Even bringing back ambassadors is an act that's useless long as you pump oil for Apaches and the tanks they using. Freedom just beyond reach for people you cannot see. He's wheezing and cannot breathe and screaming through the concrete, looking for his 4 children. The bombs leave structures that I wouldn't want to call buildings. My fingers pointed at this government, you all killed them. Tell me that you wouldn't take up arms if those were your children. Let me make the factor clear, those bombs were manufactured here, and they want the land as theirs because of natural gas in there. Feel death in the atmosphere while we hapless stand and stare, and a little boy begs for his brother's strand of hair. Truth is I don't know how anyone can live after digging for their dead kids buried under bricks. Israel is a terror state, terrorists that terrorize. I testify my television, televise, I'm telling lies. This is not a war, it is systematic genocide. But whatever they try, Palestine will never die. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, 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 free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, 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 free.
They bomb churches and paramedics, it's hurting, the panic spreading. Hospitals where the doctors do C-sections, no anesthetics. The pressure is manifesting, humanity stands connected. Masses seem apathetic and actually just accept it. When our grandchildren ask us, what did we do to stop it? I'm determined to say I did more than make music on it. It's why we shut down arms factories. You can try stopping us. Palestine Action's the opposite of white phosphorus. We tell them on the television, but they never listen. Tell Piers Morgan that resistance isn't terrorism. They want them fled or missing, death or prison, endless killing. I seen a father hold his baby up, the head was missing. Imagine demolition of home where your parents living. Kings won't say a thing, but at least we know that Yemen's with them. Ethnic cleansing, it ain't hard to see the stages, but Gaza as a graveyard of the invaders. Ears closed to the savagery, clear though when there's clarity. The journalists and doctors are heroes of humanity. As sordid and as gory as this story is for now, are they depopulating Gaza for Ben Gurion's canal? Israel is a terror state, terrorists that terrorize. I testify my television, televise, I'm telling lies. This is